So, morning folks, welcome to the channel. I didn't get as much YouTube shot this week as I normally do. Unfortunately, I've had a bit of a tough week with my illness or whatever, so I'm not feeling 100%. You can probably see it. I know I certainly can. Yeah, it's desperate. Like, it's just when it fires up, it's absolutely terrible. I can barely get out of the bed, um, everything hurts. It's just and probably shouldn't be doing this online, but honest to God, I get on top of one problem and another problem crops up. It's one hell of a battle, but we'll keep going. We won't give up, and hopefully uh, we'll get a couple of hours fishing today. I was meant to fish yesterday and I couldn't, and I was meant to fish the day before and I knew it was going to fish and it did fish, like, I don't know about you, but for me, like, fishing is, the one place where I can relax, and it's so good for my mental health. And, I just, it's a passion, right? It's not just like a pastime or something. It's something I absolutely love to do. And, you know, I was just gutted I couldn't make it the other day. Like, I was just like, you just get so down on yourself. You just like, oh no, jeez, what am I even doing this for? Like, you know what I mean? Why bother? Like, but you just have to keep your chin up and keep going and keep pushing, because I have improved, and I've had really good weeks and I'm just having a bad week, and I just have to accept that, like, and try and manage it as best I can, like. So apologies for not being around as much as normal, but when it gets like that, I just have to go to bed or whatever. So we were talking about getting started fishing, and we were talking about getting started surface lure fishing, right? And whilst I know that Paddledale is king these days, if you don't surface lure fish, you're missing out on a hell of a lot of fun. That's the truth. Because it doesn't matter whether the fish is 3 pounds or 10 pounds. If it smashes a surface lure, it's a hell of a lot of fun, right? And it can be bamboozling, like, because there are so many surface lures out there and so many colors and so many brands and all the rest of it. So what do you choose? But essentially, there really actually are only 3 or 4 types of surface lure, right? And they come in various sizes. And I wouldn't overcomplicate it. Like, so the first type is the real slapper, walk the dog ones, right? So walk the dog lures that make quite a bit of fuss. So that's a pachinko. That's a 125. Now it comes in a 125, comes in 100, it comes in a 140. The one I fish the most is the 140. To be honest with you, I know fellas are very fond of the 125. I like it myself. I don't fish it as much. I do like it, right? Um, I like this one particularly because it's got a bit of orange on the bottom of it, and I think that when it's smacking across the top of the water, right? So the idea is just to get that lure kind of stepping, like so, or whatever. And the manufacturers will tell you, oh, fish it, it's a high speed lure or whatever, and you fish it really fast, and then induces takes. And yeah, okay, fine. Sometimes that's true, but other times, like, it's not. Other times at night, I've often cast one of those into the channel and just let it drift along, just barely staying in touch with it. And next thing you feel dunk, 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 and bang, you're into a fish, right? So, because they sit like that down in the water, right? And of course the fish can see it, right? Of course it knows it's there. Like, the minute it hits the water, the fish picks it up on its lateral line anyway, right? So, I was talking to a Dutch guy who was fishing the Rotterdam harbours, and they were surface lure fishing at night, and they knew there were bigger fish out there. They were getting like lots of 50s and 55s. They knew there were bigger fish out there, and they just started casting the lures and drifting them, and then they started hooking the bigger fish, right? So like there's no hard and fast rules. I know I say that all the time, but that it really is the case. But the first thing you got to do is learn how to work the lure, right? And the other thing to consider is the current, right? So you want to be casting it up the current. You got to figure out which way the tide is running, right? If you cast it down the tide, it's just going to get blown off to the side, and it's not really going to fish very effectively, right? Now, you can cast it straight out in front of you, and it'll kind of, if the tide is running from this side, it'll work its way across this way, right? If the tide is running from this side, it'll get pushed across this way, right? And that then depends again on on how much tide there is, like how much current you're fishing. If you're fishing in an estuary, you're going to have loads of current. If you're fishing on the coast, you're going to have less current, but you may have quite a bit, certainly on the big tides, right? Now, whether you're fishing fast or slow just depends on the day, right? I would do both, like, and I put lots of pauses in there. I mix it up, right? And I see what gets me a take. And once I get a take, I then start to fish that way, right? So I just mess around with it until I get the fish actually interested in the lure, or I find a lure that they're interested in, right? So that's one type. All right, so that's a kind of a splashy, let's call that a splashy walk the dog, right? Then you have walk the dogs that aren't so splashy, right? That are a bit more subtle, right? Now these I absolutely love, right? The Espetites, that's the Espetite 115, right? The 115. What I really like about it is it's got a really wide step, right? So have I got a fishing rod to hand? I do. So, oh Jesus Christ, nothing's ever easy in this life, is it? So when you're trying to work surface lure, it's like that, right? You want to kind of get your wrist rolling like that, right? So it's all in the wrist, right? It's not like, you're not doing a whole lot. You just tip, 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 like a circular motion. And the lure will start to zigzag across the surface of the water, right? And that's what you're looking for. And then you can put a little pause in, right? The biggest mistake a lot of guys make is, a fish comes up behind the lure and you'll get excited. Of course you will. And then they get overexcited and they stop the lure, and the fish just, well, sometimes they'll take it, but most of the time they'll swim away. Do not stop the lure. Move it on a bit further. Give it another ding, 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 ding. Stop it then. See, does he take it? Keep it going, right? Like they'll follow you sometimes right up to the edge of the boat. I mean, sometimes they turn away, or the shore, and sometimes they have it, right? But sorry, where was that lure I had? Jesus, it's gone now. But the Espetite, it's what I call. I mean, this one is similar, right? So here's another. Might as well show you another one. The Asturi, right? Again, comes in a whole range of sizes. That's the 110. I personally prefer the bigger one, the 130, usually because I'm fishing in kind of stinky conditions. I'm doing a lot of day fishing. I'm fishing into quite a bit of wind, right? It's a bit heavier, but the 110 is a lovely lure. I do fish the 110 a lot. Casts extremely well. So it kind of just walks, right, side to side, right, along the surface, but it doesn't make a whole lot of splash, and it dips down under the water every now and again, which is a good thing. You want that to happen. So if you're surface lure fishing, don't be worried if your lure goes under the water. You want it to, right? So that's what I call kind of non-splashy walk the dogs, right? Another classic example of that is the Sammy, right? That's actually hooked the wrong way around. So I mean, it's just a classic. I've had so many fish on Sammys, right? I mean, down to the tiny little Sammy 80, right? So again, a really kind of non-splashy walk the dog. It just kind of cross, right? For me, honestly, the king of those style of lures is this bad boy, the Z-Claw, right? Now, it doesn't so much walk the dog as it more weaves along. It's got way more of a swimming action than the other ones, right? The new ones from Exorus are actually not the same as the Zenith ones. They are a little bit different in that they seem to spend more time under the water, right? So they're literally in that top 20 centimeters, right? Which is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Um, and again, it's the same action, right? It's just getting your wrist to roll, like just getting it and retrieve, right? And the speed is just down to the day. Like you'll find out as you go, you'll build confidence. The more of it you do, the more confident you'll become, and the more hooked you'll get on it, right? Like every chance I get, I've got a surface lure out there, right? So that's two types. We've got our splashy walk the dogs, and we've got our non-splashy kind of walk the dogs, right? And then you've got these bad boys, which are poppers, right? Now, poppers totally went out of fashion for a while. Like they were just like nobody fished poppers anymore, as far as I could see. Few fellas I knew, few old school bass fishermen I know were still fishing poppers, right? I was still fishing poppers. I mean, they are absolutely lethal. That's the God's honest truth of it. If the bass are on the feed, like if they're fired up, those things will absolutely annihilate bass. There's something about it, just pop, 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 right, and whack. Now, again, you can fish those quite fast, right, and induce a take, right. So sometimes, like there's a couple of spots, say in the front of some estuaries where I know fish hold up, right, and oftentimes they're not even feeding; they're just holding up, right. They're just sitting there, right? They probably fed on the ingoing tide or whatever, and I'll a popper across the surface, and next thing, boof, up comes a fish, right? So, but other days I'll fish it. I have to fish it really slow, right? It's just like pop, 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 let it sit, pop, 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 you know. Um, like we were out a couple of weeks ago, and the chap who was with me raised a couple of fish to the surface lure, right? But he missed both of them. And I wasn't a bit surprised. It wasn't his fault. It was just they weren't really interested. Like it was more if it was a day when the fish were fired up, he'd have had both of those fish because they'd have nailed that bait. But it was just the day that was in it. We had a howling southeasterly wind blowing straight across us. It'd push the fish. It'd put the fish down. Blah blah blah, etc. etc. So that's really the whole range of kind of surface lures, and then you've got noisy ones and you've got silent ones, right? I do like to have I have that little fella there in silent, and I have a silent small little Sammy, because sometimes like for example, if you see a shoal of mullet, they may not all be mullet, right? I was with hadn't seen him in about 20 years. A chap I used to do an awful lot of bait fishing with years ago, and we got to talking or whatever, and then he ended up buying a rod off me, a second-hand rod off me, and he was saying, do you ever fish the ripple popper? And I said, yeah, I fish a bit, tackle house ripple popper. And he said, you wouldn't believe it, I was standing on X Beach, and somebody said, there's two huge big mullet, and he said, they're not mullet, and he just flicked the ripple popper out, pulled it over two fish. One of them came up and snaffled the lure. It was 11.5 pound bass in the middle of the day, bright sunshine, no bother. I talk to other lads around here, and I'm the same, right? Especially in the summer, absolutely flat, calm, bright sunshine, surface lure fishing, ideal conditions, right? Absolutely ideal conditions. Other fellas, like there's loads of myths. It's harder to catch fish on a surface lure than it isn't. No, it's not. Not in my experience. They'll come to a surface lure just as easily as they'll come to any other lure. Now, granted, in the winter when it's cold and the water temperatures are down and the metabolism is still quite low, it's harder to catch fish. But now at this stage, when like last Wednesday, for example, when you got a day when there was definitely going to be fish on the feed, they would have hit a surface lure just as easily as they hit anything else. So those are your three types, and then you've got, just think about sizes, right? That's 120 mil, weighs I think about 28 grams or whatever. The new 121 weighs 30 grams. So you're going to want a rod that can handle it. That also comes in about that, which is 100 ml size. It's really nice. For a more affordable popper, you've got the Ubuntu. All of those are in the shop, by the way. The Ubuntu from Fishos, and I already showed you the Espetite. Oh, here it is. The Espetite. That is literally one of my favorite top water lures. It is just absolutely fabulous because it just, whatever it is, it just steps so wide, right? If I was to be given the choice of, right, you can only have 2 surface lures or 3 surface lures, I'd take that, the Z Claw, and the Sammy, and I'd be done, right? But fortunately, I'm not pushed into that situation. I have hundreds of surface lures. I have a ridiculous amount of surface lures. And the last thing you got to think about is color, right? So like, do you go supernatural, right, and try and imitate like a sand eel or whatever, or do you go like totally funky and imitate like nothing that swims in the sea? Again, it's just down to the day. I don't really understand why some days, really bright colored lures work. Like, there's the Z Claw that works extremely well for me, right? And it looks like nothing that swims in the sea. But the bass absolutely nail it. There used to be a Z Claw called a Parrot, and it had like a blue back, chartreuse kind of face, and a chartreuse nose, and then a clear kind of body. It looked like nothing, no, natural. But by Jesus, it absolutely hammered fish. Like, I mean, it absolutely hammered fish. I've never seen two fellas so happy to see a guy lose the lure the day we were out in Dungarvan. Because I mean, literally every time I cast, we were coming onto groups of fish. Every time I cast, the groups of fish were just boom onto the Parrot. I was nailing a fish, and the 2 lads were left looking at me. It was nothing to do with scale or anything else. It was just the lure itself was what they wanted, and then I lost it, and we all ended up fishing the Pachinko 125, and everyone started hooking up. So, look, what I would say to you is just get out there, give it a try. Don't presume that it's harder than other types of fishing. It's not. You'll very quickly be able to, get that lure walking nicely across the top of the water. Get something with a bit of weight in it, right? That you can get out there. Like, don't be afraid to fish big lures, like even small bass. I've had bass barely bigger than that thing take it, right? Um, so don't be afraid to fish big lures. They will hit a big one. Yeah, that's it really on the surface lure fishing. Like, it's not rocket science, it's certainly not. It's not as difficult as people might make out or whatever. So just before I finish up today, I want to show you this little guy. So that's the Mojo Craw. They've just gone online, right? And that's rigged on the BKK Silent Chaser net head, right? So with a bit of Halco estuary scent, I think that's going to do a lot of damage this year inside in the estuary, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than a lot of the other creature baits that are currently on the market. So it's worth having a look at. You can get a whole pack of them for like under €10, right? And then the heads are, I don't know, somewhere around €7 or €8, or say $8.99 or something. I just don't, I can't remember, but not a whole lot of money anyway. Certainly nothing like the price of the Megabass ones, right? So a way more affordable version, and I have it on good authority. I haven't fished those, but I have it on good authority from a friend of mine who is a very accomplished angler. And another bait I wanted to show you that hasn't really sold, and I understand why, but is that, right? And that's the Slingshot 7-inch from Megabass. And I guarantee you later in the season I'm going to do some serious damage on that lure. If you want to see a lot of the lures from the shop in action, check out Ultimate Fishing. Check out their YouTube channel. Certainly some of their anglers are worth looking at. They're really, really accomplished. And if you're interested in estuary fishing, you'll learn a lot. I fished with those guys 20 years ago, but I've always followed them, and they are, without a shadow of a doubt, talented anglers. I mean, they're catching bass, same as ourselves, they're catching bass in a foot of water, right? But it's worth to watch, right? It's good viewing, despite the fact that it's in French, right? So yeah, as I say, guys, sorry I wasn't around as much this week. I'm a good bit better today. I just have had 2 days or 3 days from hell, to be honest with you. Everything gets sore. Like, my face is so sore I can't even shave or anything. You go to the doctor, they tell you have fibromyalgia, right? What does that mean? Because actually, when you look it up, it means nobody knows what's wrong with you. So yeah, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to live with it. So apologies for my absence, and we'll keep going. But just don't be intimidated by surface lures. I would start with something easy. Start with sort of the pachinko or whatever, because well, the 140, for example, casts extremely well. It's very easy to work, and it catches a hell of a lot of fish, right? I've had a couple of double figure fish on it. And the other one is, hang on one sec. So the other surface lure I would recommend is that one there. It's the Duo pencil. That's the 110. I fished it actually, well, I fished the 110, but I also fished the 130. I did extremely well last year on the 130 when I was able to fish, but you see the little red cheek. I just like a bit of colour somewhere on the lure to give it a little bit of flash as it comes across. But I mean, that's just lovely. It's got the silvery sides. You can't see it's got the white bottom, and it's got a special little system that makes it extremely easy to work. Right, it's got a little bubble on the nose of it, so even if you just straight retrieve it in, it zigzags in like that, right? So it's not a bad place to start to kind of build your confidence, and it's guaranteed to catch a few fish. It's a really good surface lure. It doesn't seem to have got a whole lot of attention for some reason or other, but personally I wouldn't go without it. I mean, it's like there's the Popchinko, right? You never hear anybody fishing the Popchinko, and it's absolutely lethal. Like, it's just funny, lure fishing is funny. Things become fashionable and popular and whatever, and then other things just get ignored or whatever. It's like these fellas, right? They never really caught on in Ireland, the one-up shots, right? But in France, fellas wouldn't go fishing without them. So it's just a cultural thing, right? It's like, things become popular or whatever. Guys get honed in on one type of fishing, and that's what they do, or one type of lure, or one brand of lure or whatever, and they just, because they have success on it, and it's totally understandable, right? If you're catching fish on whatever type of lure, you're going to keep fishing, right? So, but what I would say is keep an open mind and try a few different things, and don't be intimidated by it. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to catch bass. It's the most fun you're going to have bass fishing, in my opinion. The next day we're going to talk about these guys. We're going to talk about fishing metals, okay? And show you a few different types and what have you. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. Again, sorry about not being around, but I really can't help it. I'm not very well this week, so we'll see you again soon. And if you're out fishing, tight lines. Okay, mind yourselves. Bye bye.